Hello, fellow astrologers, and welcome back to another episode of the Astrology Keyring Fundamental Series. In this video, D14, we'll be talking about Chiron, the wounded healer. We'll go a little bit over about what Chiron is in astrology in the paragraph, then we'll get a little bit more into it when we talk about the chart details. Afterwards, I would normally talk about how it interfaces with the keyring, but in this case, Chiron is an interesting minor planet slash asteroid. Says, well, technically, it's called a Centaurus because it's a hybrid of an asteroid and a comet. But we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get into reading stuff. And once we're done with that, we'll come back and talk about the keywords. Chiron is a minor planet and comet that represents the archetype of the wounded healer. It symbolizes our deepest wounds, emotional, psychological, or even spiritual, and the lifelong journey to heal them. But Chiron's magic lies in transformation, through understanding and tending to our own pain. We develop the wisdom and compassion to help others. Its placement in a birth chart reveals where you may feel inadequacies or carry pain that doesn't easily go away. It also shows where you can become a healer, teacher, or guide. When embraced consciously, Chiron becomes a source of strength, empathy, and mastery. So, looking at Chiron astronomically, Chiron was discovered back in 1977. It's called a Centaurus because it's a blend of a meteor and an asteroid, and asteroids are considered minor planets, not like dwarf planets like Pluto. Pluto's a dwarf planet, which is bigger than a minor planet. But in this case, it's a hybrid of both an asteroid and a comet, hence it was given the name a Centaurus, as like a centaur, and it was given a centaur name, Chiron, and it was the first Centaurus ever discovered back in October 18th of 1977 by Charles Quall. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's Kowal. And in some other bits of more refined types of astrology, people do look at asteroids and comets and things like that that come through some of the certain houses and signs and stuff like that to see how they affect people. And the most important of them all is Chiron. So when we look at these points of interest, we're realizing how it's taking from some of these unusual things that aren't your typical planets or your houses or your signs for something that is used in astrology in a higher level, that are things that you can explore further if you want to look at other asteroids and things like that. Much like in Vedic, we have the Path of Destiny with the North and South Node. You also have in the Arabic parts with the Part of Fortune and a number of other parts. Same thing with here. This is an asteroid and minor planets, and some of these minor planets have some effects on your chart. Maybe not as much as your bigger planets, but in this case, Chiron, since it's the biggest one of them all, or it has the biggest draw of them all, is one that is watched in modern Western astrology. So, it's food for thought to think about. Okay, so in these chart details, one thing we always want to point out, this is a point of interest. It's not like a typical planet. It doesn't have, like it says down here, a ruling sign, a corresponding house, or planetary dignities. It is a comet. Well, in this case, it's an actual hybrid of a comet and an asteroid, which is known as a Centaurus, but for the most part, it's a comet that's considered a minor planet. And it symbolizes wounds, healing, mastery through pain. Now, and the one thing I do want to mention is a big telltale about how it's going to work is where it's going to be in your chart, like house-wise, and the sign itself. Now, the sign in the house really can tell about how it's going to affect you personally. And again, it talks about things that might be a deep pain that might have happened to you, or some kind of effect, something that really moved you. It could be a missing family member, or it could be, being shunned by some people, or maybe an actual physical trauma or something that's just kind of sticks with you, and you have to learn how to overcome. And you learn to help other people who have to go through these kind of things to overcome it too. So it's an interesting kind of like a place to study. It could show up anywhere on your chart. So it doesn't have a house, it doesn't have a planet or anything else. It is kind of its own thing because it's an asteroid. And like other asteroids who have effect, and that's a deeper dive into other facets of higher level of astrology that we may get into later on, talking about other asteroids or other kinds of things that might be points of interest beyond just the basic 5 we list here. But it definitely doesn't have its own spot, but whatever spot it does take, that's where it actually is going to show up, and that's what makes it kind of interesting, how it actually doesn't have a special place. It's wherever it goes, it's really going to shine or have its effect in that particular area or sign. But let's go back now and talk about those keywords. Now, every time we talk about the houses, signs, or planets, in this case, this is a point of interest, we like bringing up the keywords. We always mention the general ones, the positive and the negative traits, so you can get a good balance. Sometimes you'll see some redundancy. Usually in the keywords, not so much, because these guys have their own little special area that they have. They don't share other stuff like the other signs do. But let's go ahead and read these. General traits: wounds, healing, wisdom, vulnerability, transformation, and empathy. Positive traits: compassionate, insightful, healing, wise, resilient, and self-aware. Negative traits: insecure, self-sabotaging, emotionally guarded, avoidant of pain, and prone to self-doubt. So those are some good keywords right there. It touches on a lot about what Chiron encompasses and gives you a good idea of what it's all about. So that brings us to the conclusion, pretty much sums up Chiron for our study today. Tune in next time to D15, the midheaven, the public self, right here. We'll be talking about this placement right here, which is very strong, similar to the ascendant. We hope you have enjoyed this video from our Astrology Keyring series. If you like the content, please like, follow, and share with your friends. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed journey.